David Daniels here with Legacy, here interviewing Preston Perry, poet extraordinaire and extraordinaire apologist. How'd you get into that, man?
Man, I've always kind of been into apologetics, but I've never really like ventured into it, like as far as doing it publicly, until like this year. 7 years ago when I was in college, I didn't even know what apologetics was. I got challenged my faith by this Jehovah's Witness who just knew the whole Bible. And I knew like the foundational essentials of the Bible, but I didn't know like how to defend it. And I think a lot of his challenging questions and just comments really challenged me to study the faith, like study like the word for myself. And from there, man, I think that it just birthed in me a hunger to defend the faith, not only for the gospel, for the sake of the gospel, but also for people in other religions, because they need the gospel as well. So just developing a heart for them, while at the same time like defending what I believe.
Were you shaken in that first exchange with the Jehovah's Witness when you didn't have your answers?
As far as like my faith, my faith wasn't shaking. It was crazy because what I believed at that point, it wasn't just intellectual. It was like an experience. I just didn't know how to communicate it from an intellectual standpoint. So my faith wasn't shaking. I just knew I had to study more. So yeah, I've heard people in the past say, well, like my faith was shaking once, yada yada yada. But I was kind of sure what I believed was right. I just knew I didn't know how to defend it. So that's kind of like why I stood with that, you know.
So how'd you go from, like, how did it turn into a thing where you're like, I'm passionate about providing answers for others?
Yeah, man. So I think what that did was, what my relationship with him was, it inspired me to go out and, like, when I see a Jehovah's Witness, to talk with him, to engage in conversation. And throughout the years, I saw a need for it. I grew up in the African American community where, you know, black people have Jehovah's Witnesses, Hebrew Israelites, Moors flooding their neighborhoods all the time. And every single time we talk to them, every single time they come in our neighborhoods, I mean, we never really engage in conversation. And I just always thought it was a disservice to the gospel. So I think just seeing a need for it more, seeing a need to like share truth with people who don't believe in what we believe was needed. And I think that's what kind of sparked it for me.
Is that why you started Bold?
Yes, that's why I started Bold TV. That's why I started Bold Apparel. Just a desire to see more bold Christians giving the gospel in a bold way. I think it's just needed, you know. And I know we have to be empowered by the Holy Spirit to have boldness, but just to encourage Christians to be like, man, like, you know what? I'm gonna pray forward. I'm gonna seek boldness. So
now, maybe you've had conversations with Christians about this newfound passion for apologetics, and maybe they're used to Christians being bold when they have these apologetic conversations, but they're not used to Christians being bold and loving. It seems like it's more about an argument or a debate than actually hearts.
Yes.
So how do you wrestle with all that?
Yeah, man. What I tell people all the time is we have to try to win hearts and not arguments. But we have to understand that the arguments do count and they do matter. Because a lot of times we can be so concerned about somebody's heart and not really concerned about the argument, and we never present truth to them. And a lot of times we can be so concerned about presenting truth to somebody that we kind of neglect them as a person. And I think that there has to be a balance. My grandmother used to say, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. You know, and I always thought that was a true statement, right? So when I talk to Jehovah's Witness, when I talk to a Hebrew Israelite, or when I talk to a Mormon, I always talk to them like they are created in the image of God. I always talk to them like they're an image bearer who has purpose, who God has created for his glory, who has dignity. And I let them know that I love them as people. And then from there, I think I'm able to ask questions, hard questions. And we just kind of rock it out like that.
Randy got the wisdom.
Randy, he had the wisdom, man. Rest our soul.